Poto Williams.
I rise to take the call on the Student Loan Scheme Amendment Bill number 3, Mr Chairman, and I want to assist my colleagues on this side of the House to point out something that I find very troubling about this bill, specifically Clause 8 and in particular sections 162A and 162B. Mr Chairman, I speak, of course, of the criminalising of people who have student loans and arresting them at the border for a problem that they have with defaults on their loans. And while I fully support the taxpayers of this country require us to repay what is clearly owed to them for the benefit of having a loan to support our study, I think, Mr Chairman, that we shouldn't be making it easier for students to repay this loan. It appears to me that we've missed several steps in this process in order to achieve a heavy-handed, big-gun populist approach, a gimmick that sounds like it will achieve the objective, but really it achieves very little. Specifically, Clause 8. Who is going to enforce these arrests at the borders? And I wonder how stretched our border authorities already are. Will it be the police then? Well, I hear that they've already stated quite clearly that they don't have the resources to enforce it in a way that this bill is proposing. The bill, and this clause in particular, is punitive and basically takes what should be a matter for civil jurisdiction and turns it into a criminal matter. But that's not the only point I want to make. The point I want to make is that this would not be required as an enforcement tool if we looked at intervening in this pathway a lot sooner in the process. If we are serious about ensuring that our students repay their student loans, we need to be prepared to facilitate it by making it as easy as possible without the threats potentially hanging over their heads. And what kind of message do we send to our students, Mr Chairman? The potential of being criminalised for taking advantage of a student loan scheme, an interest-free scheme that I'm proud to say was part of a Labour-led initiative, and one that, despite the fact they don't really like it, the National Party is currently not prepared to ditch because it does a great job at supporting people into education. And many Pacific students have taken advantage of this very scheme. It's vital for our Pacific communities that they have the opportunity to access the student loan scheme, and it's a great opportunity for Pacific students to attend higher learning and for those younger Pacific students to see that it's possible to hold tertiary qualifications. However, as we've heard spoken about, when the provisions are to arrest at the borders, and we see Pacific people who are likely to be moving around our borders in that regard, does it not then beg the question at who might be potentially most at risk? And I worry about the message that we're sending to our students when we say, if you get into trouble with your loan, watch out. You'll have to provide security, you'll have to surrender your travel documents, or you'll be arrested at the border. What a massive disincentive to our student population, and why would you even consider studying in this environment of threat and retribution? And it goes to the very heart of the very Kiwi institution of the great OE, where many of our young people have taken directly after their study and travelled overseas. Like many Kiwis, they've taken up employment in other countries, and as Kiwis have a reputation for being conscientious and hard-working folk, innovative and clever, so our people are sought after. And what do we do with this knowledge and experience that they've picked up overseas, in the overseas working environment? Do we bring this knowledge and experience back home to benefit the local businesses and the academic institutions and the research organisations? Well, we should, but only if we welcome our people home, not disincentivise them to return with their skills and experience. Let's face it, we're not the biggest country in the world, and bringing ideas and knowledge home after testing it on the world stage is only going to be good for this country. So we are in effect making refugees of our own people because they are in fact exiled overseas, unsupported and not helped to return home to repay the loans as they should. Do we need any more evidence of a government that doesn't understand the needs of its own citizens, that could permit a section of its citizens to become criminals rather than taking a rational approach to the issue?
Paul Goldsmith.
I move that the question be now put.
Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and I'm happy to take a call on this these amendments to the student loan scheme, but I want to